Hello delegates, teachers, staff, and distinguished guests. My name is Ellen Lee, and I'm your Deputy Secretary General External. On behalf of the Secretariat and Board of Directors, I'd like to welcome you to the 17th iteration of Canadian High School's Model United Nations. Let us begin by acknowledging that the land on which many of us are gathered and where CAHSMUN is typically held is the shared traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Coast Salish peoples. Specifically, we recognize the Musqueam, Squamish, Stolo, and Tsleil-Waututh nations on whose lands we live. Each year, CAHSMUN strives to engage youth in their community. The first step is acknowledging past and present injustices. Reconciliation is a continual process to which we all owe responsibility. We'd also like to recognize the diverse groups of people who participate in CAHSMUN and ask all delegates to review our code of conduct before participating in their committees this weekend to ensure a constructive weekend of learning for all of us. Now, let's introduce our Secretariat team. First, our USG of Outreach, Ooni Bose, our USG of IT, Jae-woo Chun, our USG of Marketing, Tina Shi, our USG of Delegate Affairs, Kobe Chen, our USG of Specialized Agencies, Jeremy Fang, our USG of General Assemblies, Betty Pan, our Director of Logistics, Kevin Rowe, and our Chief of Staff, Peter Zhang, our DSG, Internal, Lincoln Lee, and our Secretary General, Emily Nee. There's another aspect of the CAHSMUN community we'd also like to thank, our sponsors. Our official printing sponsor is Westwood Printing and Signs. Our silver sponsor is Jen Juden. Our partners are Mini Enterprise, Jagmeet Singh's office, the University of British Columbia, and the Sheraton Wall Center. Their generous support helps us create a better organization each and every year. And this year, surpassing the limits of an annual Model UN conference, CAHSMUN has transformed into an institution. We're branching into year-long community engagement initiatives, into freely accessible education modules for youth across the nation and even beyond, and we've even incorporated different fields of political engagement and business, because our team believes that CAHSMUN isn't just one opportunity to debate, discuss, and discover. It's a journey that'll work to prepare you for the rest of your careers. As an institution with direct access to so many teachers, coaches, and ambitious students from diverse backgrounds, we have a responsibility to progress and expand our domain each year. I think, too often, we underestimate the capabilities of passionate teenagers inspiring each other. I think it's too easy to be complacent with a project or a goal once you reach a certain amount of attendees, funding, or partnerships. This year, our team realized CAHSMUN isn't just about the numbers. It's about the impact, and it's about the people. I think we need to remember that nothing around us is quite perfect as is, and we can always attempt to improve. Our work has just begun, and so I hope that each of you will invest in CAHSMUN's potential, but more importantly, that each of you will invest in your own potential at CAHSMUN. The speeches you present, the awards you'll win or won't win, and the clauses you'll get to pass this weekend might fade away. But the efforts you put in to improve, the people you'll meet and uplift, and the desire to succeed will stay with you. Learn today and lead tomorrow. I'd now like to invite our USG of Delegate Affairs, Kobe Chen, to speak about our Delegate Social and CAHSMUN social media. Godspeed.
Thank you, Ellen. My name is Kobe Chen, and I'm ecstatic to be serving as this year's USG of Delegate Affairs. I'm here to introduce our exciting virtual Delegate Social, Distancing. That's right, this year's theme is distancing, to highlight our ability to connect over this exciting activity of Model UN despite the pandemic. On Saturday evening, we'll be hosting a whole host of games, including trivia, Scriblio, Jackbox games, and even a Minecraft server. Before you groan about a Zoom social, I just wanted to let everyone know that we will be giving away over $300 worth of prizes. So if you're a trivia fanatic or keenly dexterous at Minecraft, drop on by. I also wanted to take a moment to mention our social media, at CAHSMUN on Instagram and at CAHSMUN 2021 on Facebook. We will be posting highlights from this weekend, including sharing delegate insights, IPC stories, and conference updates. Lastly, and most importantly, we want to spotlight our outreach sessions hosted by foundations, featuring speakers like Jagmeet Singh and Jaden Delatour. This is a unique opportunity for you all to connect with global leaders and gain more insight on political and social engagement to take this learning outside of MUN. I would now like to welcome Secretary General Antonio Guterres for a few remarks.
Our world faces the biggest test since the Second World War. In these trying times, I welcome the holding of your Model UN activity. Your commitment to international cooperation is essential for tackling the COVID-19 pandemic. We can only defeat the coronavirus if we do so globally. We must come together and support the most vulnerable. The United Nations is undertaking a wide-ranging response calling for a global ceasefire and working to control the pandemic, save lives, mitigate the socio-economic damage, fight stigma, and recover better. I draw great hope from seeing your generation mobilized to address the challenges of our time and to build a healthier, more equitable and sustainable future for all. I wish you a successful Model UN.
Now we would like to invite the Prime Minister, the Honourable Justin Trudeau, for some words of encouragement.
Hello, delegates. Bonjour à tous. It's great to be with you all today, and it's wonderful to see so many young Canadians engaged in public policy and international diplomacy, because we need your ideas and energy now more than ever. This past year has been challenging for everyone around the world. Families have lost loved ones. People across all sectors have lost their jobs. Small businesses have closed. Frontline workers have faced great risks and challenges. And everyone has made sacrifices to keep themselves and their neighbors safe and healthy. Et c'est pas tout. La pandémie a aussi amplifié les inégalités entre nos pays et nos populations. Pour faire face à cette crise et soutenir nos populations, tous les pays du monde ont dû agir rapidement et on a dû agir ensemble. Car pour vaincre le virus chez nous, il faut le vaincre partout ailleurs. United, Canada and our international partners formed a coordinated response to this crisis. We increased support to vulnerable countries and worked together on the development of multiple safe and effective vaccines. Job one remains defeating this virus and ending the pandemic everywhere. But to get people back to work, grow the middle class, fight climate change, and create fairer and more resilient countries, we need to continue our global efforts and build back better for everyone. And we need young people like you to help us lead the way. Alors, continuez de faire entendre vos voix. Levez la main et impliquez-vous. Parce que vous êtes les leaders dont on a besoin pour bâtir un pays et un monde plus sain, plus propre, plus inclusif pour tous. Thank you for having me today and have a wonderful Model UN. Merci.
Thank you, Honourable Prime Minister Trudeau. I'd now like to introduce our keynote speaker, Adele Gemara. Adele Gemara is a co-founder and CEO of Gemara Leadership Group, an international boutique firm, and co-founder of the Gemara Foundation. Over the course of his career, Adele has advised senior leaders of companies, nonprofit organizations, and governments across the world. He served as education specialist at UNESCO, policy fellow at Harvard Law School, and has delivered executive programs at Harvard. Please give a warm welcome to Mr. Adele Gemara.
Hello, delegates at this year's Canadian High Schools Model United Nations. I'm Adele Gemara, and I'm honored to be addressing you today from the traditional and unceded territories of the Coquitlam First Nation and the Coast Salish people. Aisquail. In the traditional language of Halkamenum, it means good day, respected friends. Thank you so much to the organizers for inviting me to address you today. I want to congratulate you all on the great work you've all been doing. I'm in awe of your ability to endure and persevere during these unique and wondrous times. Not only have you been able to demonstrate patience and resilience, you've also been able to organize, connect, and remain committed to service. This Model United Nations Conference is a testament to that service. You know, the first time I ever heard about Model United Nations, I was 24 years old, older than all of you here. At the time, I was completing my Bachelor of Arts degree at the University of Calgary. I was a young husband and father, and I had a student loan. To help fund my education, I worked as a building supervisor at the Students' Union building. I mostly helped set up rooms for special events. I usually worked the weekend shift. One Saturday morning, I was called to open the council chamber at the Students' Union building. There was going to be an event that day with a lot of high school students. Seeing so many young people like yourselves dressed so well and presenting in their various committees amazed me. It turns out it was a Model UN event. Now, as part of my studies, I took some political science classes. I learned a lot about the UN. I just wasn't aware of MUN program, and it looked like a lot of fun. and the delegates sounded so much smarter than I ever was at their age. I was in awe then, and I'm in awe now at the great work you're all embarking on over this weekend. Honestly, I never imagined that over a decade after that particular Saturday that I'd work for the UN. I was invited to address you today to share briefly my experience working for UNESCO, along with my personal outlook on the important role young people have in service and in furthering the public good. In the summer of 2013, I was offered to join UNESCO as an associate project officer. At the time, Libya, a North African country rich in history, culture, and natural resources, had its political leader toppled. A country that I thought was ready to turn a new chapter after a bloody civil war. A country that was thirsty for a new future filled with young people with hopes and dreams for a better way forward. Libya happened to also be the country of my father's birth and where I lived a handful of years as a child. It was a country that I had cultural connections with. Driven by a deep passion to make a difference, I accepted the offer. When I received my letter of appointment, I was beyond excited. The letter began with the following: Dear Mr. Gemara, on behalf of the Director General of UNESCO, it is my pleasure to offer you an appointment as project officer in Tripoli, Libya. At that time, the Director General of UNESCO was Irina Bokova, the first woman ever to lead the agency. She was an advocate for gender equality and improved education. She was a firm opponent of racism and social injustice. Reading that letter, I was filled with a sense of purpose and great responsibility for the work ahead. My work, or role, was to represent UNESCO with Libyan government officials, donors, along with national NGOs and international NGOs. I was to help UNESCO with a higher education project and build lasting partnerships at a time of civil unrest and widespread fear due to the civil war. A couple of weeks after my signing the contract, I remember arriving at the UNESCO Tripoli office. It was a humble two-story villa located in a residential area. My office had the bare minimum. It had a single desk, which I shared with my colleague, 2 chairs, printer, a stapler, a filing cabinet. I brought my own laptop, some papers, a blue pen, and a pencil. Our office was on the bottom floor, and the second floor was UNICEF's. When I posed for my ID card, standing in front of that baby blue flag, I was filled with optimism. It was a great honor. But the truth is, it wasn't easy to make progress that I hoped to make. Once I was onboarded, I had a sense of urgency. I was ready to get to work, but I would be quickly disappointed. My colleagues and I would regularly get notifications of security threats. One morning, a government building that was just a few houses over from where I stayed was torched. Bullets marred the building. Documents scattered the street. I remember scheduling dozens of meetings with ministers or their deputies only to have no-shows, or the meetings would be bumped or outright canceled. Now, the experience wasn't all negative, though. The people were the most memorable. My UN colleagues were so invested in improving the state of the country. This was the case whether they worked with UNICEF, UNDP, UN Women, or any other UN agency. I believe, just like me, they were all driven to make a difference. Plus, meeting with so many young people, witnessing their optimistic smiles and seeing their promising eyes and hearing their aspirational dreams filled me with great joy. It gave me hope. Here's my admission. Being under constant security threats and not seeing how I can directly use my talents to make an impact in my role in UNESCO, I resigned months into my job. On my flight out of Libya, I thought that I failed UNESCO, that I failed the young Libyan girls and boys whom I met, that I failed myself. Weeks after I resigned, I heard that the Prime Minister was kidnapped from his hotel room by gunmen and driven to an undisclosed area. Those who abducted him were reportedly former rebel fighters from the revolution. This happened not far from our UNESCO office. Although I didn't feel that I fulfilled my role with UNESCO, it brought to surface something else. It forced me to ask myself, where am I most useful? Where can I contribute and make a positive impact in the world? I learned that working with young people is one of my callings. This is why I co-founded Gemara Foundation. I want to inspire and empower and connect young people to enhance the public good in their communities. The experience at UNESCO confirmed for me that change is possible if it's driven by a deep commitment to service and improving people's lives. It also taught me that making a positive impact on the world isn't easy. If it were easy, everyone would do it. It takes a deep conviction, hard work, and most importantly, collaboration. We're in dire need for a collaborative world. Collaboration isn't intuitive. For many of us, it's a hard ask. To commit to co-labor with someone else, to share the burden with empathy and solve problems together, both local and global. My advice to you is don't make matters about you. Leadership isn't positional. Leadership can never be about you or any individual. It's about making collective progress on big challenges. Leadership that's committed to service, leadership that's committed to decorum and diplomacy, leadership that's driven to make much needed sustainable change across the world and across our country. What the pandemic has made clear to us is that the world is the most interconnected it has ever been. A virus at a seemingly distant market can impact us all. Global challenges do have local impact. That's why the most pressing challenges facing our world today require collaboration. During these next 3 days, I invite you to build your collaborative muscle together. During your committee work, listen to each other, learn from your fellow delegates. Whether you're addressing health, international security, environmental challenges, or civil rights, help each other grow in order to make sustainable progress on our global challenges. The drive that inspired me to help a war-torn country reimagine its education system isn't unique to me. I believe my commitment to make a positive difference in the world is in all of you attending this conference. This is what's so powerful about drawing people together. It helps us learn from one another. It bonds us to collaborate with each other. It inspires us to do good in the world. Young people are often taken for granted. I know a lot of grown-ups don't imagine much from you, but I don't see things like they do. I believe that youth are the very people who can do amazing things in our world, things that no one can imagine. You are the most hopeful generation that our world has been calling for. You're globally conscious, you're collaborative, you care about the world around you. It is your generation in which I have hope. During this conference, together, let us rise up with a greater readiness to learn from one another. Let us stand with a greater determination to listen to one another. We now have an opportunity to make our communities more inclusive, welcoming, and whole for each other. Thank you once again for allowing me to be with you here today. Good luck in your deliberations and community work. Write to us at Gemara Foundation. Follow us on Instagram. I hope to see and connect with many of you really soon. Hi Sabka. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Gemara, for that inspiring speech. Now, please welcome our Managing Director, Kevin Non, the man who's kept this whole thing together through the roughest iteration yet, for some welcoming remarks on behalf of our amazing Board of Directors.
Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the Board of Directors and Advisory Committee, I am pleased to welcome you to CAHSMUN 2021. This year has shown us that more than ever before, we are globally connected and diplomacy matters. And in particular, your voices as young leaders matter. We've seen the impact that your advocacy can have on the world's most pressing issues, like racial inequality, climate change, and public health. In one of the most challenging and uncertain years of your lifetime, I think few would fault you or your teachers for choosing not to spend your weekend on more Zoom calls. But over 400 of you have chosen to be here. We thank you because our nonprofit relies on your participation. We congratulate you because of the exceptional effort we know you're putting in during this extraordinary year. As former delegates ourselves, we understand the level of effort it takes to get to CAHSMUN, whether that be last-minute research as a delegate or endless field trip forms as a sponsor teacher. The annual planning for both CAHSMUN conferences is run entirely by our high school secretariat team. While we have watched much larger conferences run by adults simply choose to postpone, we have been constantly amazed at the hurdles the secretariat team have overcome this year. As they face new challenges our organization had no guides or reports to solve, the Secretariat team remained steadfast in their goal to not just move CAHSMUN online, but reimagine what virtual multi-end conferences could achieve. We know from their many late-night emails and messages that they and the staff team have put in thousands of hours of work into CAHSMUN, and we're excited for you to share that experience this weekend. At the board level, we oversee strategic planning, particularly as it relates to our pillar of accessibility in Model UN. So if you're a student leader trying to ensure your Model UN club continues after you graduate, if you know of a school that's trying to start a Model UN program, or if you're a teacher trying to integrate Model UN into your curriculum, we're here to help. While we continue to proudly meet 100% of our financial aid requests, we know that barriers to Model UN go far beyond registration fees. If you are, or if you know a student that is facing challenges to participation in Model UN, please connect with us and we'll do everything we can to get them to CAHSMUN. The Secretariat team is your best point of contact for most questions throughout the weekend. If you would like to chat about accessibility or have an urgent concern for the board, you can ask for us at the Secretariat desk, meet with us at the Sponsor Teacher Head Delegate meeting, or send us an email through board@CAHSMUN.org. Once again, on behalf of the Board of Directors, thank you for attending CAHSMUN, and we look forward to hearing your fruitful debates.
Thank you, Kevin. Next, I'd like to invite our Kevin Rowe, the Director of Logistics, to highlight some important logistical information for CAHSMUN 2021.
Thank you, Ellen. My name is Kevin Rowe, and I am proud to serve as the Director of Logistics for this year's iteration of CAHSMUN. I would like to take this opportunity to go over critical information surrounding conference logistics and important reminders. This year, CAHSMUN will be hosted on CAHSMUN Campus, a conference webpage made by our USG of IT that will help you navigate the conference during the weekend. To access your committee, please enter CAHSMUN Campus, find your committee name, and click on it to access your committee room. Each committee room, with the exception of the Secretariat Desk and Delegate Social, will be given a unique password that should have been sent to you via email prior to the conference. We ask that you do not share your committee's password with anyone and that you write this password down so you do not forget it. As committee sessions will be held on Zoom, we ask that you join your committee room 5 minutes before the beginning of each session. However, in between breaks, we ask that you do not leave the committee room to allow for a smooth transition after the break. For more information about Zoom, please watch our Zoom instruction video before the first committee session to better understand all technological requirements and expectations. Should you have any questions during the conference, feel free to join the Secretariat Desk room where the member of the Secretariat team will be available to answer any of your questions. For all urgent inquiries regarding technological issues, please call our toll-free number that will be listed on CAHSMUN Campus. Finally, please join our conference Slack workspace before the first committee session if you have not done so already. The instructions and the invitation have already been sent to your email prior to the conference. As Slack will be used by the Secretariat to convey all pertinent information and announcements, please ensure that you are checking it regularly throughout the conference. Thank you for taking the time to attend CAHSMUN. Godspeed.
Thank you, Kevin, for the important information. And now, for the moment you've all been waiting for, I'd like to invite our Secretary General, Emily Nee, to deliver her speech.
Good afternoon, sponsor teachers, delegates, and honored guests. My name is Emily Nee, and I have the honor of serving as your Secretary General for Canadian High Schools Model United Nations 2021. On behalf of our Secretariat team and our Board of Directors, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to our 17th and first online iteration of CAHSMUN. It feels like an eternity ago since delegates, staff, and sponsor teachers filled row after row of seats in the Grand Ballroom, and I would be able to speak to you all face to face instead of screen to screen. Nevertheless, since our first Zoom meeting nearly a year ago, the Secretariat team and I have been working to replicate the same experience we've cherished for so many years on a virtual platform for you all. Despite all the ups and downs of adapting to a global pandemic, what kept the Secretariat team going was the prospect of committees coming to life once again. To see all of your hands raised, witnessing inside jokes and friendships being formed, and seeing hundreds of delegates assembled to debate, discuss, and discover. To the first-time delegates, thank you for taking a leap of faith and participating in this eccentric extracurricular activity. To you, I only ask that you take risks this weekend. Model UN is daunting and unfamiliar at first, from detailed rules of procedure to the frightening prospect of speaking in front of 50 people. Nothing about MUN is easy. But with every speech you give, every note you pass, and every resolution paper you celebrate, it will get easier. We all start taking the same steps on the same road, but before long, you'll have found the courage to run. 2 years ago, when I sat in the grand ballrooms listening to Andy's speech at the 15th iteration of CAHSMUN, he said something that I still remember. Aim to catch lightning in a bottle. In times like these, in the complete absence of normalcy, I think this message holds true now more than ever. Over these 3 days, dare to forge beyond the beaten path. Seeking to follow in someone's footsteps may lead you on the right road, but aim to leave your own mark in your journey through Model UN. In other words, learn today so that you may lead tomorrow. The Secretariat team and I are excited to witness a lively weekend full of experiences that you will hopefully cherish for years to come. Seeing as CAHSMUN 2021 is now in session, I wish you all the best of luck. Godspeed.